Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggett, I'm the founder of Car Dealer Magazine. Today I'm chatting to Derren Martin from Cap HPI. Derren, thank you very much for joining us. You are our go-to expert at the moment for used car valuations. Give us a little bit of an indication as to what you've seen in June.
I think it's fair to say June took probably even the most optimistic by surprise. It has been really, really strong. We've seen a kind of two-tiered market. Certainly cars over 5 years old have generally been going up in value. Underneath that, still some strength and stronger than we expected it to be. There's definitely been those older cars that have gone up by sort of 20% as high as that, which in pound note terms isn't massive, but as a percentage in one hit, that's some real seismic movements. That's not that common, but 10%, 15%, we've certainly seen movements like that, which, to be fair, I've never really seen before in my time at Cap, so it's been really strong.
Derren, I mean, that's an amazing jump, really. I mean, do you think what's driving that is people that are heading to the used car market who wouldn't normally have bought a used car? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about people avoiding public transport and actually going into the used car market instead. Do you think that's created this rise in values?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's kind of three things really. There's the pent-up demand, so people who wanted to buy a car during the lockdown period and couldn't, or they could do, but there wasn't. They were kind of being very careful during that time. And then you've got those people that are new to the market are buying because they don't want to go on public transport, and some of the announcements from the government during that period really sort of aided that as well. And then I think you've got people downsizing, so selling a more expensive car and going into a cheaper car to realise some cash and being very careful, and probably realising that certainly their second car doesn't need to be as big or powerful as it used to be. So they're being fairly prudent. So I think that generally it's those three areas that have led to the demand. You've also got the supply issues that have led to the strength as well, with their difficulties in the logistics side, getting cars through. There hasn't been the supply that we expected there to be. So demand has outweighed supply, and there's been a lack of part exchanges coming into the market as well from the new car activity not happening during the lockdown period. So it's kind of been the perfect storm there, really.
So on average, what have you seen prices go up over June?
Depends on the age. We've seen, and it really depends on the brand as well. So we have seen some drops for certain ones. Certainly on late plates, we've seen some values. On average, the drop there was just under 0.5%. So it wasn't big, and some things have stayed fairly level there. But where the franchise dealers weren't necessarily out buying straight away and then weren't necessarily buying from the manufacturers, there's been a little bit of weakness there. But generally, it has been a tale of strength, and we've seen that some of that strength in the older cars. So Peugeot 107 has done well, BMW X3 over sort of 2010-12 models. So sort of those older cars that are nice there. So like that BMW example, nicer older cars have certainly performed well, and they've gone up by £300 or £400, which on a lower value car is quite a lot in one hit.
And when it comes to the dealers out there at the moment, we're hearing that there is a bit of a bidding war frenzy at car auctions at the moment, that dealers are really struggling to get hold of stock. Do you see that easing at all over the coming weeks and months?
There's certainly been, basically, if you want to replace your car, there's certainly been a sort of frenzy, or a car that you've sold. There's certainly been a bit of a bidding frenzy there, and values have gone up. We've seen a slight softening of that over the last week, I would say. The percentage of cap being achieved doesn't seem as high as it was in the data that we're seeing. So maybe a very slight easing, but still strong. I think it will stay relatively stable now for the next few weeks. I don't see it easing off particularly. I think the supply will still be an issue. So there's not that many cars coming back in. Demand still there at the moment, but I do think it won't last forever. And I think July may be strong. Once you start getting into August, you're starting to see the economic impact as well of furlough drawing to an end. And then the supply could increase as the extensions from the lockdown period start to come back as well. So I think it's okay for now. I think maybe towards the end of the summer you might start to see a bit of a weakening, but I would say sort of make hay while the going's good at the moment. And they haven't necessarily been able to replace a sold car for the same price we've won through the auction. So you're having to maybe pay a little bit more, which could push retail prices up as well.
And we've often seen in a recession that the used car market is the area that does incredibly well. It definitely happened in 2008, 2009. Are you predicting that's going to happen again and going to basically keep dealers in business as we go forward?
I think it'll be their bread and butter. Definitely, they're focusing on used more than new at the moment, and there isn't maybe not quite the pressure from the manufacturers as there usually is to do the new car business because some of their factories have been closed down. 2008 values did come down considerably, and then they recovered in 2009. So you had a real sort of V shape there. So they were affected, but used cars can do well as people move away from new. So we do see that there is going to be some pressure on used cars going forward, not quite at the moment, but going forward I think there will be as the economic impact hits. But still that cheaper end I think will do well. Those cheaper older cars, smaller cars again, as we've said before, city cars, super minis, they'll continue to do well. So I think we're all right for a time, but I think once the economic impact hits, there might be some more pressure, certainly on the more expensive used cars. You think about a 6-month-old used car is still sort of maybe £20,000-25,000. That's a lot of money for somebody to part with. So it could be that cheaper end that holds up better than the newer stuff.
So Derren, if you were sat in a dealership at the moment and having to go out there and restock a forecourt, what sort of models would you be buying?
I would probably be concentrating on over 5-year-old stuff at the moment. I think that will sell well. German products, as we said before, will sell well. Smaller cars, certainly. Maybe if you can get them smaller automatics. We've seen that fuel type doesn't particularly matter. Petrol, diesel both been doing well, although there has been a little bit of pressure on some hybrid, younger hybrid cars because they're generally priced more expensive than petrol, diesel. So you might be able to buy a nice little convertible and sell that for good money at the moment as well. We've certainly seen some strength there. We've had some really good weather. People maybe got a bit of disposable cash because they're not going on holiday, although that may change now. But yeah, we've seen some real good strength in those sort of areas. So I'd probably be concentrating on over 5-year-old vehicles. And if you look at some of the values there, they're you can get an Astra or something like that, very good value now on those older cars. So I would probably be concentrating on that and making margin there. A little bit more wary on some of the younger stuff.
And what about the luxury car market, Derren? I mean, we wrote a story recently, some Auto Trader data showed that search volumes were vastly up for luxury cars, but at the same time, they believe the retail prices have gone down. I mean, what are you seeing on the stuff like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, for example?
We've seen very little impacts actually. They seem to be holding up okay. Part of that, I mean, you don't get a lot of that in the trade data, but we analyse retail data as well. And in the retail data, they've been doing okay. So there's not been a real sort of move away from those. And I guess the people that can afford those are maybe not the ones that are going to be as heavily impacted at the moment anyway. With sort of job losses and that type of thing. So that end of the market has held up remarkably well as well.
And what about anything that's really stuck out in your mind, Derren? Is there anything that's been really unusual? Well, I mean, apart from everything, but anything that's really unusual in June in the used car market?
I think the real thing that took us by surprise was just how strong it was after two months of where you'd normally expect cars to depreciate. You've got a new plate coming in September, which generally tends to mean that the cars on the previous 2 plates will have to come down in values to make room for a new used plate coming into the market, because there has to be a difference between the price of a new car and a used one. So I think we've just been really surprised that there wasn't a small price drop coming in. We expected it to be fairly volatile, maybe come down before it recovered. It didn't do that, so it stayed strong throughout. That's certainly taken us by surprise, and really the fact that it's unusual to see this 2-tier market where you've got older cars doing so well and younger cars not. You generally get similar percentage movements across the age ranges. We did predict that older cars would do well, but to the extent that they've done well, I think has certainly taken us by surprise. And when you're talking about some of those percentages that I've already mentioned, that's something that, I mean, I've been at Cap for 8 years, I've never seen that. It's really unusual for it to happen in that short period of time. But again, it's explainable by people buying those cars to not go on public transport, looking at that cheaper end and being wary about using that type of thing. So I think it is explainable, but if we're honest, it took us, and if everyone's honest, it took most people by surprise, really. But on a good side.
Yeah, I think a lot of dealers out there are probably very happy that it has happened that way.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just finally, Derren, for you, you're obviously talking to a lot of dealers at the moment. What are they saying to you when it comes to that demand and performance for their businesses throughout June? Has it tailed off at all? Has it continued to be strong? And how is new versus used from those that you've spoken to?
I think it's continued to be strong throughout most of the month, and as I say, I think it'll carry on being strong for the next few weeks. They're concentrating on used more than new. It's quite hard to get a handle on where the new car market is. I think there's issues with the DVLA getting new cars registered, so I'm not quite sure where June will end up. I would expect it to be down on previous Junes, though I don't think that they've caught up at all. But I think for the used car market, yeah, it's been really strong, and as I say, they're concentrating more on that. And we've heard of like maybe doing 5 used cars to 1 new car, whereas in the past it was 2 to 1 or 2.5 to 1, something like that. So and the dealers we've spoken to, we tend to do it via this format, and certainly there's been some smiles on their faces during this time that they've been doing well, and to be fair, much needed as well, really.
Yeah, long may it continue. Derren, thank you very much for your time today. Keep up the good work, and please keep us posted on any of those changes as they go forward.
Will do. All right, thanks, James.
For more videos like this one, you can check out Car Dealer Live every day, midday, cardealermagazine.co.uk, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much for joining me. Goodbye.